If you're enjoying the Health Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This episode of the Health Geeks Book Club podcast is sponsored by Monarch Living. www.monarchlivingnc.com. You can also call 336-893-4562. Monarch Living, transforming your life one space at a time.
Welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Hey everybody, it's
Hi.
Kristen here with Eleanor
Yippee.
and Tim.
That's me.
I'm drinking my coffee.
Today we are talking about a gentle approach to organizing and creating systems around your house. I picked an interesting book called How to Keep House While Drowning.
Yeah, and I kept trying to figure out, why are we reading this?
And I'll tell you a little bit about it in a minute.
I mean, we're the health geeks.
But we have a special guest with us today, Jennifer Hammon, the owner of Monarch Living LLC, who has a passion for providing home organization and relocation services, particularly for seniors. And Jennifer, we're so glad to have you today.
Yes.
So you provide services tailored to what people might need. Can you tell us a little more, give us an example of how you help your clients?
Are we referring to this book, how I would help this audience, or just in general?
Just in general, with home organization, relocation, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the people you work with.
Okay. So,
Your experience.
yes. So I'm a professional home organizer as well as a move manager. Everybody, I think, at this point knows what a organizer is, so I'll let that be. But what a move manager is I help anyone during the process of moving. If you're moving, whether you're downsizing, so senior adults during that entire transition process, or if you're a busy family and you both have jobs and you've got kids and you just don't know how you're going to sort and pack, I come in and I take over all of that. We sort, we pack. If you're moving locally, I'll unpack for you. It's just the entire process.
And are there more than one of you that does this?
It's pretty much just me.
Okay.
Right now, sometimes people get confused that I'm also the mover. I'm not a mover. I don't have movers. So if you don't have a mover, a local mover you want to work with, I certainly can recommend movers that I work with, that I enjoy working with, as well as if it's long distance and I can pair you up with someone, another move manager. I'm part of NASM, the National Association of Senior Move Managers. So if you're moving somewhere else outside of Winston-Salem, I can pair you up with someone on the other end to do all the unpacking.
That sounds great.
And so is there a certain amount of decluttering and systems and thinking through that kind of process with your clients?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much where it starts.
Yes. So this book, I brought this book to the table because I think there is this pressure to be neat and organized. That's almost like this struggle with body image that I see with clients. Just like we feel pressure to look a certain way, we can feel the same pressure to keep our home in tip-top shape no matter what. From the minimalism movement to this IG era of pretty organized homes, to the books and TV shows of The Home Edit and Marie Kondo's life-changing magic of tidying up. It's just everywhere. And it can start to feel like too much when you have to spend all day emptying your closets and thanking your belongings, or organizing your books in a rainbow pattern. When is there time to live, take care of your children, or maybe aging parents, or pursue your career? Like, it's just crazy. So on page 1 of Spark Joy, which is Marie Kondo's second book, she writes, "Life only begins when you have put your house in order." That's the kind of pressure we've had. But in How to Keep House While Drowning, the author Casey Davis tells us the opposite. You don't exist to serve your space. Your space exists to serve you.
Kind of a radical idea, huh?
Yes. And so
I dig that.
I just thought
yeah.
this would be a really important topic to discuss together on the
Well,
podcast.
I asked, why are we reading this? We're the health geeks. And I would not have thought this would have been something we needed to address. But after this little book, oh my gosh, it's, she talks about things like feeling overwhelmed, perfectionism, trauma, chronic pain, energy fatigue, depression. Those are all health-related issues.
Yeah.
And our environment, we know, it affects our health. So this is absolutely an important topic for us to share with our audience and say, let's explore this a little bit and learn more about what are we doing and why are we doing it and who told us to do it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, well, tell us a little bit about the author.
Okay. Well, Casey Davis, I decided she's a very personal, private person, but she has an LPC, and I had no idea what LPC meant, but it's a licensed professional counselor. And I thought, okay, well, then what do you have to do to be one of those? You just put LPC after your name? No. You got to get a BA degree and then a master's degree and then do an internship. It's a professional credential. And you have to sit for a licensing exam to be able to put that thing after your name. So, yeah, she brings some credentials to the conversation. But when I tried to learn more about where does she live, blah, 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 it's not easy to find. She's a TED talker. Mm-hmm. She is also very open about her early history of teenage addiction and her experience in rehab. So she unveils that much of her personal story to say, I'm speaking from experience on knowing how bad it can get. And if you watch any of her YouTubes, did either of you all watch any of those?
I didn't.
Oh my gosh. It made me think I'm a judgy person, evidently. But I remember when my daughter was in Scouts, we went to a Scout leader's home, and I was stunned because I had come from a tradition of an orderly home. Uh-huh. My mother was an at-home mom and we lived in a small space. We didn't have a giant house like people have these days where you can move from one room and just close the door.
Right.
It's like you got to walk through the debris. So there were the habits and things that we were encouraged to do growing up. Well, so I thought everybody did that. Well, I walk in this lady's house, and in her living room, piles of laundry, mountains, not just like a load, but mountains. And the kitchen, stuff everywhere. And I thought, oh, I don't get this. And then the whole TV thing came out with the hoarders. Mm-hmm. And on TV, you walk through these people's houses and you see the chaos they're living in. So anyway,
my mother-in-law.
Oh, yeah. Well, and yeah, it is pervasive, and I'm sure Jennifer is going to tell us a little bit more about that. But yeah, so as far as what do I know about her, that she has TED Talk. Go listen to it. You can see her. She's a delightful writer, and the way she organized this book is unbelievable because she talks about maybe some of these people that are having troubles are neurodivergent.
Yeah. And
so the book is structured for people. And she even paid attention to the serif. I mean, the font of the type. Mm-hmm. Left leaning and sans serif because that's easier. And also attention spans are short. So here's a way to read this book and get through it fast if you have to. I'll give you a little jump play. I mean, she's very, very thoughtful about her audience.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would say about her. As Simon & Schuster published this, which is a very good, and it's a 2020 book. Came out in 2020.
Yeah. Now, when she wrote the book, she had her own struggles she had to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
She had her second baby in a new city right as the world shut down from COVID. Without access to a support network for months on end, she found herself struggling with postpartum depression and undiagnosed ADHD.
Yeah, but before that, she had a big plan on how she was going to survive this. She had everything lined up, and then the world changed.
Yeah.
So she knew she was going to maybe have troubles with this pregnancy, and she made her plan, like everybody tells us in all these books. Make a plan, stick to it, put it on the calendar. She did that, and then
guess what?
The unpredictable part of the predictably unpredictable chaos of life, which I have just absorbed from the joy choice, happened to her. COVID slammed shut. She was at home with those kids.
Yeah, and she used every tool in her therapy training arsenal and created a very self-compassionate way to address her stress, depression, and ever-mounting laundry pile. And I thought, if I had this when I had my two kids, I would really appreciate her kindness because I was really hard on myself. I knew I wanted to rest, but I couldn't rest because I felt guilty. And when I was resting, it wasn't restful because I was feeling guilty my house wasn't clean.
That's anxiety.
And I wasn't getting to the dishes. Yeah.
Anxiety.
So, Jennifer, in your work, do you encounter people who feel kind of paralyzed by their stuff and do not know how to get through the other side, especially when they have big other things going on in their life?
I'd say almost all of my organizing clients in the last 3 years.
Which I am one of. That's how I met her.
At least in the last 3 years, that's been almost all I've had calls about are for one reason or another, as Casey talks in the book, and there's more. Things have just stockpiled, and they look at it, anxiety
Paralyzed.
steps in, they don't know where to start. And, good places always say start small. I mean, just start. But then you've got your ADHD, and so you pick up one thing, you might go to try and put it where it belongs, you pick up something else, and before you know it, the day is gone and you haven't accomplished anything. You've moved
guilty.
stuff, right?
Yeah. Or you go from one room to other, like starting things and then never
Yeah.
finishing them.
Yeah.
But when Casey decided to do something public with this, she posted something online about how
I saw that.
she was living. And the one thing, when people say things to you, you sometimes hear the one negative thing. Well, someone said, your problem is you're lazy.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a springboard for the conversation in this book.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be lazy? And she says, laziness does not exist. That's a new idea for me, because I have called people lazy. Mm-hmm. I've taught myself I'm lazy. But she says the complexity of health and hygiene is not simple. And it's the things that do exist are those things that I mentioned earlier: amotivation, lack of skills, lack of support, different priorities, procrastination. Those are real.
Yeah.
And laziness may not be. So I've kind of have a new lens on when I'm thinking about this. And the one that really I hope we'll get to at some point is trauma over housekeeping.
Yeah, it was very brave to come out and publish this
yes.
because people do love to comment,
Yes.
and they don't necessarily take the time to find out the story behind it. And that was when I started organizing. I had an aunt who pushed me to do it, and I'd say, no one needs help organizing. Why would anyone need help? And it was just in my own head, that's just what you did. But that's in my wheelhouse, and that's not in everyone else's wheelhouse. Where her friend she talks about in the book, who's also a business owner online and everything, and how she can clean her house up all the time, but then she'll go down to sit at her desk and try to get work done and can't get anything done. I was like, well, that's me.
Yeah.
I can clean my house all day long and tidy it and organize it, but then when it comes time to do this is where I struggle.
Yeah.
So we all struggle. It's just in different
areas. Yeah, I appreciated how she shared that.
I love
Because
that
we
too,
can judge ourselves for not being good at certain
Right.
things when it's natural to others. And I think social media exacerbates that because you see everybody's talents and pretty things.
Oh, yeah, and she talks about some of these self-help gurus who are telling you what to do, and maybe that's their natural inclination,
Yeah.
and it's not yours, so you try to do what they're doing, and you're so out of sync, it's not funny.
Yeah, and their phase of life could be different too.
Yeah. So she's writing to the self-help rejects in,
Yeah.
in many cases.
Well, I'll just comment. Marie Kondo, did you guys see she came out now that she has 3 kids? She's like, I can't really tidy anymore like I used to. And everybody's like, I knew it.
Yeah, that's
I love that.
Yeah, so I don't
But
think
she's
she's
honest.
folding her clothes in that same little envelope anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's honest, right? And
That's nice.
but I
good.
think a lot of people were upset because
They bought into
they
it.
bought into it, even though they did have kids themselves,
And
it
couldn't do it.
caused
And couldn't do it,
anxiety,
yeah.
and ugh. So
And their houses were probably a lot bigger too. So you got to take in every aspect of it. I mean, as I tell my clients, granted, we're talking more tidying here than organizing, but there's more than one way. What works for me and what I do right now, it's a phase and it's working for me. What might work for me in 5 or 10 years is different. It depends on what you're dealing with, especially if you're dealing with trauma, anxiety, ADHD, all of that plays into.
I was just struck by a
Really?
thought about this is Tuesday after Sunday. Some people have faith practices they do on Sundays and scriptural things that say, get your house in order, and that puts a load on a lot of people too. But that is a more global statement that some people don't get. Yeah.
Well, she brings this up, right? The messages we hear can sometimes make us feel like we're lazy or unworthy humans if we aren't able to keep our house spick and span. And for me, my grandpa used to say, cleanliness is like godliness.
Is exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or, maybe it's your parents used to shame you for not cleaning your room perfectly, and then you have kind of that lingering with you in adulthood, and it affects how you feel about that. This is just something you don't really think about, the emotions that come with tidying and organizing and keeping your
Which
spaces.
comes to that story of why do you do what you do? It's the journey you've been on and the context and the people that have influenced you along the way that are your context. So I want to repeat something you said earlier, because I think we should repeat it a couple times during
Okay.
this podcast. You don't exist to serve your space exists to serve you. And that's her philosophy. She doesn't have a program. We've read a lot of books that have programs and prescriptions for what you should do this, do that. She's kind of saying, no, it's a philosophy that you've got to embrace. So that's why I want to repeat that. And the other thing she wants us to remember is that you are worthy of care, whether your house is immaculate or a mess. And she says a lot of the underpinnings are that self-worth issue, that I'm not worthy unless I fit that role that society has said I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I have several clients that have not had anyone over in years. Particularly COVID was a huge, I mean, right, how many ways did it affect everyone?
Right.
So this is just one of many where we're all closed in and things happen, and there's lots of Amazon and lots of places to buy stuff, right? So all
Boxes
this
and
stuff,
boxes.
it just adds up. Or maybe you started a project because you wanted, you saw this Instagram post and you're like, this is what I want to look like. So in order to start, you got to empty everything out, and just the overwhelming task of putting it all back together. So for one reason or another, I have clients, that they're ashamed of their house and they don't want anyone to come over, whether it's family or friends. And it's debilitating. It's horrible, because everyone needs that social contact. You want to be able to share, not everybody, but, share your home.
And it shuts you out.
It does.
We have a group
Isolation.
of friends that we alternate going to each other's house, and we're always like, oh, shit, if we got to do, but we got to get everything ready for here. And we have lightened up a little on that. Like they're our friends. They should understand we are who we are.
Yeah.
When our house looks lived in,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be crap,
Yes,
but it
yes.
has to look lived in.
It's your house.
And it's my house. This is where we live. This is where we operate. This is us.
Yeah.
So no, there might be some cobwebs that you can see. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to all embrace that a little bit.
And when you get that negative self-talk, which chatter, we read a book about chatter, that just starts, but you get that negative self-talk like, oh, I'm filthy, I'm dirty, this is awful. She gives you ways to flip that around to say, my house is a mess because I'm creative. My house is a mess because I'm alive and I love it. And that's kind of what you're talking about.
We
Once you
work
can
our
do,
asses off
Right.
Yeah.
and are not here to constantly keep it up. We can't afford a housekeeper. So, we each work 40 to 60 hours a week.
But by complimenting yourself for the things that you are doing takes this anxiety, depression, and some of the negative physiological spins that you can get into, paralysis, and sitting in the corner and saying, just let me eat chips.
Yeah.
And I'll leave them here when I'm done.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she organizes her ideas. So she gives us some ideas in here. And I thought it was fun to look. She organizes them from sanitation. The first one is you don't want bugs.
Which I liked.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And then she says, the right way to do things may be unbearable for you. So maybe it takes you longer to do something, but you like doing it that way. And somebody comes in and says, well, you can do it faster this way. And then you feel, something's wrong with me because I want to do it my way, which comes into that autonomy, trap thing that we learned in the Joy Choice, where she talks about the reasons that we get paralyzed sometimes is because we get tempted to go do something else, which I'm sure your clients do, because they don't want to take the time to do it, which is me. And then rebellion against the autonomy. You're telling me to do it, then I'm really not doing it.
Right, because we say, I should clean it this way, or I should organize this way.
Yeah.
And rebel against that.
And the perfection trap, it won't be perfect, so it's going to be a mess tomorrow. If I straighten up today, it's going to be a mess again, so why even do it? And she talks about that as well. As a lot of people use that as an excuse. Why clean up? It's going to get a mess again. That seems
But it
like
kind of keeps it from.
Yeah, it's easier to straighten up once you've gone through a deep clean than it is to do that deep clean.
Deep clean every time.
Spend 4 hours cleaning up your house, and then tomorrow just come through and pick up what you left. Yeah.
shame is the enemy of functioning.
So she's got that 5 things tidying system that I think. Do you have any kind of systems like that where you like narrow it down to? here's the top 3. I don't know. I just like these 5 things tidying. There are only 5 things in a room, she says. Trash, dishes, laundry, things that have a place, and things that don't have a place.
That's
So you just-
simple. That's nice.
So
yeah,
simple.
that's part of decluttering and sorting. You know, when people so I'm kind of coming in to start the tidying process and then finding an organization process to go with it. So I'm not here for necessarily all of it, but yeah, you want to. Trash, pick up as you go. Ideally, like don't leave it there. Just pick it up. But obviously, after this book reading, that's not easy for everybody to do. So it's just trying to find little things. Like when you do get up, maybe just grab one thing. And then maybe that momentum, like she talks about a couple of times in the book, once you start, it's easier to keep going. I tell my clients all the time, put some music on, and she says the same thing. I tell my boys this when they do the dishes too.
Yeah.
Like put some music on. It'll be light. It just lightens up the environment. Find something you enjoy, or a podcast, or I like audiobooks when I'm doing kind of meaningless tasks that are boring, but it gives me an opportunity to listen to a book or something I like, and I can do that.
Yeah, that initiation and motivation is something we've talked about in many of our health discussions with healthy practices that give us the future me a better outcome, which she also addresses. Do something for your future self today. So, that's a way to give yourself a gift. But that exercising, a lot of times what I've learned to do is, I know I'm supposed to spend 20 to 30 minutes, but I'm just going to sit on my cycle for 5 minutes. That's it. And I'm going to get off. Usually by the time I've sat there for 5 minutes, I'll go the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes. It's just that idea, give myself permission not to do the whole thing. And I think she's using that same idea
did that as
here
well.
with that music. And then she was talking about the wait time, to use the wait time as a timer. Like I'm ordering dinner from Grubhub or whatever she said, this is going to be done before the food gets here. So she's given herself that urgency and just a little bit of something.
Instead of
And it
cooking
worked.
and taking
Yeah.
that entire time while the food's coming.
Yeah, and being
do something.
behind. But to use that as instead of setting a timer to do it, use things that are in your day that you have to wait. So use that wait time to address one of the little tasks that you've got. I love
Right.
that.
I do too. I like that urgency in it.
But that was kind
And
of
it's a
weaving it in your
game,
life
too.
too, because I have to wait.
Right. And it's a game. Can I get this done in time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that and try to challenge yourself. I know people who've done that with TV shows. Like, okay, at
Yeah.
the commercial break, enjoy the show. Do you really have time? Maybe not, but enjoy the show. But at commercial breaks, hop up and do something.
Yeah, know what you're going to do.
Right, like if you're in your bedroom watching TV or your living room,
You can dust.
you can dust, right? Or you can, if you've got trash laying around, pick that
And
up.
it
or
feels so
clothes.
good.
Put the
That's a little
clothes into
short.
the laundry bin. Yeah.
And you get that reward,
Yes.
which they say, James Clear says, the cue, the trigger, the cue,
Cue and the
behavior, and then the reward. And that's a great
It's
reward.
immediate satisfaction.
Yeah, gratification.
So one thing that I'm taking away from this, like the one thing that's functional for me, is keeping a laundry basket in every room.
She says go to Pottery Barn and buy a bunch of baskets or whatever.
Well, I went to the dollar store today.
Yeah. Isn't that a
And
good
I
idea? It's a
included
great
one
idea.
for my van because, whether it's my sweaters or jackets or the kids might change from sports and then it's in there. And I'm like, why do I have all these clothes? So I even put a laundry basket in my van.
Yeah.
I have a cardboard box in mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That works too.
I was cheaper.
Yeah.
One of those unpacked, delivery boxes.
Right. But if you have one in every room, then you can always at least keep it contained.
Yep. And people do similar things like on your stairs. Like, right, you put something on the stairs, how many times, like if you have a family, other people in your house, how many times do they walk past that item? Well, instead you put a basket on each stair for each person or just one general one, and it's someone just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Get it
Yeah,
one
off the
step
step.
closer to where it's supposed to be. So it's finding these tricks and tips that kind of just help you get started.
Well,
Yes.
back to her foundational concepts, she doesn't call these things chores. She calls them care tasks. And she says they're not, she says care tasks are morally neutral. And I thought, who would ever thought to say that? But we do. We sort of put this ethical decision on it. And one of my issues is saving the planet, And so, nope, can't throw that plastic out because I got to go to the recycling.
Yep.
Nope, can't throw that cardboard out because they can be recycled. Can't throw those clothes out because they can go to Goodwill.
And it just stops you in your tracks.
Well, I get that far. I got them sorted, know, but then there they are because I didn't go the next step. And I want to do something else besides do that next step. So there they are. And she gives you permission. If this is your struggle, she says, throw it away. Do not, you're sick, basically. And you are at that point because you're not healthy. You've got some barrier. Throw it away. And she gives you permission. Later you can save the planet. Doesn't mean you're going to do that. You're going to throw everything away from now on.
Right.
But for you to get healthy in your home, you need to address this in the quickest, best way. So, Jennifer, speak to that a little bit, because I'm sure you have other clients like me.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of where I come in. I'll take it for you. So I'll come over and I'll help you.
Okay, tomorrow.
Might load it, right? As part of, also in order to help tidy things up, it's probably important that you declutter. Most of us at this point have too much. And so really you have to take the time to sort through it. What do you really need? What do you want? And then as you're sorting and you decide, I'm going to donate, I don't need this, I don't want this, it hasn't helped me, whether it's every single kitchen gadget that's out there or office supplies, we all have a surplus and things. So once you sort through everything and declutter, I'll take it to whatever charity you want, school, whether it's clothes, that might need to be recycled because they're holey at this point or have stains on them. You don't want to donate them, you can recycle them. Whether you want to donate housewares, and depending wherever you want to donate it to, I can. We've got a ton of great charities in Winston-Salem.
Where do you recycle clothes?
There's a recycling bin in the Whole Foods parking lot.
Oh, okay.
You can also donate clothes as well.
Right, but
both.
we often have
worn out.
Yeah, the kids have holy things, and I'm like, do I throw this away?
No, you make a rag and then you use it to wash your car that you never do because you go to the car wash.
We have this giant, speaking of decluttering, we have this giant thing of white T-shirts that are supposed to be rags that never get used.
Yeah, you can, you
don't
can use them,
though.
right? Instead of going out and buying,
That's true.
nice looking
Yeah.
rags, right? You can actually use them. So it just depends on how you want. If you're going to use them, use them. If not, donate them.
Right.
But
And I'm
yes.
sure you have to kind of work and talk through all of these things to figure out kind of where your client's coming from, what kind of issues they may or may not be dealing
Right.
with.
And this book, it really highlights a lot of them where sometimes you don't think about it. As I've gotten into it, I am aware of them, but it's a struggle for a lot of people. And so especially sometimes they'll let go of things for various reasons.
And then when maybe we're relocating and we want some familiarity, do you also kind of help it feel like not a completely new environment where you have to figure everything out? Do you kind of help set some of the things up in a similar fashion, or?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially my senior adult clients really want to recreate what they had previously. So I'll take pictures, and whether it's, the china cabinet or the secretary, so I can put everything back right in place, try and, especially if there's eyesight problems happening, the tripping hazards, you want to limit as much as possible, so I'll redo that. But it's funny because my younger clients, most of them are, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
They don't even want it.
Yeah.
They want to start fresh. And so it's very interesting to go through work with the different generations.
Yeah, I used to have a friend that said everyone should move every 5 years because
Yes.
you then throw stuff away because you don't want to pay the mover for the
You
weight.
don't want to pay to have them move
Yeah,
it.
to move your trash, so you get
Right.
rid of it. And it's like if you stay put like I have for more than decades, but anyway, yeah, it can be a accumulation, and you do have space, so you can accumulate it. But anyway, I wanted to ask you about marginalized communities because that was kind of a new idea that she's very broad scoped in this book. She does not talking to affluent white America. She was talking about some families and communities feel like they're less, and to keep their dignity, they've kind of gone overboard on cleanliness, and that they tell themselves that they can feel good about themselves and have purpose if they do really good with these care tasks. And she said that's hurt some people along the way.
Just put too much pressure on them.
And then she's also talked about other parental trauma. The stories in there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know that I've ever given that the thought it should. Like when you're teaching your children how to keep their space clean, are you traumatizing them or not? And some parents, there was a story in here about a dad came home from work,
Yeah, her dad.
and the rooms, oh, it was her dad? Rooms were not straight enough, and went ballistic and messed them all up and said, do it again.
And even if that was in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night, he'd get them out of bed.
Yeah, and I'm sure his intentions were to teach them how to do, but he got out of control, and that has happened to people. So then when you say keep a clean house, it's like I'm dealing with post-traumatic stress here, and that's when I think somebody like Cyrus Bush could come in with tapping, and help them restructure the neural pathways there. Because even cleaning the bathroom, they were saying people that have been sexually abused.
Yeah, that was new to me.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's real, and because you wonder, why is this bathroom so nasty? But maybe they can't address it because of some past trauma, that's hidden. I mean, these were new ideas for me, and I thought this is, stuff that health providers could maybe explore with patients, but they would not know their living conditions because health providers
Right.
see you in their office, and this backstory is not known, and it's going to be protected probably because they're not going to invite you over, like you said. People are not going to invite people into their mess necessarily.
Well, I think that's why it's important to talk about it on this podcast.
I do too.
Because
there's help out there, folks.
That's right.
Yeah, if you're struggling with it, she's got some techniques and ideas to give you permission to do your self-care. Be kind. She says gentle. What were the 3 words? Gentle, slow, and quiet.
That's right, yeah.
And so she has gentle tasks and permission to stop when you need to. And she has closing routine of her day.
Oh, I like that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
You want to talk about that a
was
little
good.
bit?
Well, I don't have much to say. I just, I used to, I'm a very visual person, and I do go on social media. So I'm attracted to those,
me too.
clean home videos, and I see moms, cleaning up at the end of the day, and I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, I'm on my couch,
just wanna
and I
relax.
am done.
And that's why you're healthy.
Well, but then I feel bad because maybe my kitchen isn't
Well, don't feel bad.
span.
Yeah, and so getting you to the place where you don't feel bad about that is what she's talking about. I mean, but we all
liked
do.
her
I mean,
closing routine because it wasn't she wasn't doing it to not feel bad. She was doing it because it served her future
help her
self.
tomorrow.
she reframed, and that's what I'm saying about the tapping thing could be really exciting for people who are struggling with this, is writing that new story. And the other thing that she talks about in here is shared effort. When you are cohabitating, and sometimes in the male-female relationship, the guy goes to work, comes home and relaxes, goes to play golf, and mom goes to work all day, comes home, and then has to make
Clean
the
the
decisions.
house.
And we've talked about habit formation, non-habiters and habiters. Some of us can't be habiters because we have so much responsibility. But that conversation about how do we determine the delegation of these tasks between us and have a good, healthy conversation. And she had some charts about high impact and low impact, high effort versus high impact, and identifying the things that are really critical so that you both can sit on the couch at 7:30 or whatever you decide to do, instead of one of you's on the couch and the rest of you are the other one's not. And then the resentment comes in, and then blah, 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 blah.
So
And
that
the
came up
relationship. And the good
Yes.
life says relationships are the most important thing.
Yeah.
So with me,
Yeah, let's talk.
I
Let's analyze Tim.
yeah. So Sunday comes and
The day of rest.
it is supposedly. I'm 52, but I still like playing video games, and Sundays are my day to do that until football season starts, and then that rules everything.
So
for
you're
the next,
taking a self-care day.
Yeah, so that's what I do. And my wife comes home and she starts cleaning up, and I feel bad. I'm like, you're doing all this stuff. She goes,
Well, somebody's got to do
she
it.
says, don't feel bad. This is my coping mechanism. I want to.
Oh, you've got
I
that
want
worked
this
out.
right here.
You've got it
and I'm
worked out.
like, but I still feel bad, even though she says not to. She goes, no, don't, because I'm doing this because I want to do it. I feel better about the house whenever it's done, and this is the time that I can do it. So don't you feel bad that you're not you're not up doing that. Then I'm the one that cooks at home, so
There you go.
So I make up for it there, but I still feel bad that I'm sitting here, I'm enjoying that, killing this, killing that, blah, 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 blah.
Well, later
and
you're
here
gonna be
she's
cooking dinner.
Right. And then she comes right in front of the TV, sweeping and stuff. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
So
do you
what
really mean
is there
that?
a hint, or are you really,
How honest are you?
yeah, are you truly telling me that it's okay? So, yeah, she says it's truly okay.
Well, believe
Well,
her.
you talked about it. That's the
Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah.
It got brought up in this book, but also in Catherine Price's book, Happiness. What was it?
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm blanking on it. The whatever.
Yes.
Tim will tell me in a minute.
I will.
But they both brought up a different book called Fair Play, and it addresses this whole topic of
Shared
responsibilities and has like a process of how to work through it and talk through it, and talks about the mental load. It's not just, and
Well,
this is kind
that
of,
was a mental load for him. He was taking that on mentally.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, she talks about, Casey Davis talks about it too, that, a care task can sound simple, but it's not simple. It's got many steps. And something like cooking dinner can sound simple, but there's a major mental load and lots of steps with it. You've got
Executive
a plan,
functioning.
You've got a grocery shop. You've got to get out all your ingredients. There's just multiple steps. And so when it gets kind of narrowed down to this one thing, like making dinner, we don't really give ourselves credit for all that mental load
Or how much went into it.
or how much went into it.
No, it's automatic, yeah. And people who've not ever done it before do not appreciate that.
Right.
Because I remember event planning in my professional world. I had an administrative assistant that would plan these giant events, for parents of students, and booking rooms and getting caterers and making sure the invitation. Well, if you've never done that, you think, what's the big deal? That's awful, And so I think that idea of never having done something and assuming it's simple
Yeah.
when you don't
When
understand
you've
what
never
it is.
actually done it.
Yeah. So when she itemized all those things, because she does a really good idea, she took a couple of tasks like doing the laundry, what's involved in doing that, and told you all the steps. And it's like, oh my God, I do that every time.
I'm
Jeez.
tired.
Yeah. Whew.
No wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Don't
she's,
separate. That's
Yeah.
what she said. Just throw it all in.
Yeah, she comes in. If this is a problem for you, like if you like to do it, fine. But if this is a problem for you and this piling up, maybe it doesn't need to be folded after all. She discovered her onesies for her little baby didn't need to be folded like
Yeah.
you said in those little packets that Marie Kondo suggests. She gave it up. So it's not important.
I picked up a similar trick online that if you put hangers in your laundry room and not in your closet, then you can actually hang
Yeah.
up your clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way they're not wrinkly when they come out, and you just.
Right, because I fold them and then I got to unfold them to hang them up, and then they never really get hung up half the time. And so I'm like, see, I need to pick up these little
Yeah.
things that function over perfection.
Yeah, what doesn't work or what can work, and that's where she just kind of opens your mind to that thought where, and even over the years myself, and I change as well. Like we talk
That's
about
important,
different
yeah.
phase and what's going on, and so like I try and bring down when I do my laundry, if I remember, I bring down the hangers and I put them there. Half the time I have to go back and
I
get
haven't
them.
remember yet to do it. By
Right,
the way.
I have to
It's
go
an
back
idea.
and get them half the time, but I do, and then that way I can hang those things up. My boys, they're old enough; they're doing their own laundry now. At first, it'd drive me a little bit crazy that they literally would just take their hamper and dump it in.
Yep.
Socks are still curled up and whatnot, but
At least they're doing it.
they're doing it. It works for them, So it doesn't have to. It's not one way. It doesn't have to be my way. It just has to get done.
Yeah, she says different people
Eventually, yeah.
struggle differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is that individuality thing that in health topics when we're addressing them, one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
And we have to remember that because we are individuals and variable. But there are ideas for each of us. And that's what I think her system is so structural. It's not like detailed. It's just like, these are the 5 things. And if you can't do all 5 of them, just start with number 1 because that's where the bugs come in.
Right, yeah.
You don't want bugs.
Let's not add those to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you got that done, then move to the next one, or maybe do them in a different order.
Yeah, try it and see what speaks to you. Like, what gives you positive feedback, feelings.
Yeah, and she says that this whole system of hers, or philosophy, or these 5 the tidying method is based on the fact that you mentioned organization, that the brain does like to see progress. And so if you can just have a little bit of success, your brain likes that. It's it's feeling good. I can do a little more of this. So, learn your biology, your psychology, and your environment, because she says that these are the things that affect our capacity to do the work. And we have to appreciate those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all need systems that make our space more functional. And while I love the visuals that maybe like the home edit gives, but I don't really need to have my books in rainbow order in order for them to be functional to me, or my pantry doesn't need to have all the blues over here and the greens over here. I like it.
Visually, you find it
decluttered,
appealing.
And it's pretty if I have it that way.
Your pictures of our podcast books do look good.
Thank you.
On social media.
Well, for a picture, I might do it, but I can't keep it that way, that's for sure. So I just have to remind myself that functional is better than pretty. And if I can have both, great. But life is messy, so we usually can't. So,
well, the story about in academia, the professors' offices are like just the messiest place in the world, and that's where creativity comes from and thought comes from. And I saw a little thing about Albert Einstein's desk the day he died, and it was a total wreck, But that was the way he worked, And some of us don't work that way. Some of us have to have a clean desk. Because then the feng shui lady says, then the good energies can arrive. If you have a non-cluttered surface, good energy comes.
It's a distraction to some people, where other people can have piles and they're
Need it.
functioning great.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what's in each pile. So it's just trying to figure out what works for you.
yes, if I move my husband's papers, and he yells at me, I'm like, I don't want this pile on my kitchen counter.
Yeah, can we move the pile?
Yeah.
Different location.
But yeah, some people like that organized chaos is what I call it. They know where it's at.
Yeah, it
It's
works
a
for them.
different- Yep.
Well, what was her philosophy statement again? Something about,
You don't exist to serve your space.
That
your
one?
space exists to serve you.
yeah, and then she has this great one. Anything worth doing is worth doing half-assed.
Yeah.
And then she changes it to partially if you don't like the bad language. But
I like it.
yeah, I knew that's why I went that far. But anyway, that's a kind of, really? You don't have to finish it?
Well, that busts the all or nothing.
That's like
thinking,
liberating.
right?
Like I got that much of it done. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. Well, so while the focus of Davis's book is targeted to those who are, as she says, drowning or struggling with their mental health, I also see her message as helpful in many other situations and life stages when housework is just plain hard to keep up with. Maybe people are busting their butts for their career, going back to school, working full time, single parenting, at home with young kids. That was a hot mess for me. Or managing a busy family while working, not to mention life-changing events. Maybe you lost a spouse or someone close to you, or a debilitating illness. I think these strategies we all need, and she's got simple self-compassion and kindness written all over her book.
And she also says if you're in a position where you can, get help. And there are professionals that can help you. Like when I was a hot mess, single mom, baby, working full time, not making a lot of money, laundry, I didn't have a laundry. I didn't have a washing machine in my apartment, nor in the complex. So I had to go to a laundromat. Someone said, why don't you use a laundry service? I went, what's that? No, I didn't even know it was out there. So I used a laundry service for 2 years. It was the best gift I've ever had to myself, because that was gone, and I knew my baby would have clean clothes. I remember my second child comes along, and I'm, earth-friendly mama, and I'm saying, we're using cloth diapers, because cloth diapers are good. And my husband says,
I had that thought for a minute.
Yeah, and it's like, no, and that's what she says here, too. There are times when the least environmental friendly choice is maybe a better choice, So don't beat yourself up if you use the paper diaper. At that time, that's when it's a good use.
Right.
And my husband is an environmentalist, and he said, that's a good use of plastic, honey. Maybe the individual water bottle's not, but that's a good use.
Yeah.
So, there's all that stuff to go. But my point was that Jennifer's with us today, and she has a profession, and she helps people. Are there other people like you out there, or are you the only one in the world?
No. There's lots of us. You can go to NAPO, the National Association
Which is
of
the-
Productivity Organizing.
And that's the
Consultants.
group that you're.
That's one of them. The other one was for senior move managers, NASM, National Association of Senior Move Managers, so NAPO, and then NASSM. If you need some help, you can put your zip code in, and you'll get all kinds of help.
So, folks, if you don't know
Jennifer-
about that, it's good. Know this.
But how do you find any tips, and you might not have thought about this yet, but how do you find someone who can understand some of these issues we've talked about today and not just come in and, here's your rainbow organization, have fun?
So one of the first things I say to my clients is thank you for letting me come in, because it can be, depending on the client, it could be a really big step in letting someone in their home, right? That's your sanctuary, your private space, and they're embarrassed by it. And whereas you don't need to be, that's why you called me. You recognized you need help. You made the call. You've taken that step. And so, I come in and kind of assess, show me around, let's see what's going on. And importantly, ask them, what do you want out of this? It's not, I don't come in and look and say, this is what I'm going to do. It's what do you want done? So that's the most important thing, is to listen to the client and see what they really want, what they need. And that's just kind of getting started.
Yeah, so maybe kind of scope out what their approach is and how.
Yeah. And
if
a lot
they're
of
listening
it,
to you and willing to hear what you need.
yeah, and they talk it out. It's very emotional. Sometimes it can be, especially if it's a spouse who's passed and they can't quite. I've had several of those recently. That's why it comes to mind, and especially because sometimes you just don't think about why someone hasn't been able to keep up with things. So I can help during any situation like that, if something's emotional or sentimental, but also, and I'm always telling them, give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling the pressure of everyone else. And so it's just give yourself some grace. Take a deep breath. You've made that first call. You're doing it. And then we just kind of work through it.
Well, I can recommend your services. I think you're phenomenal. And I if you're out there and you know that you've got some of these problems, read this book, for one, but then maybe the appropriate step would be to reach out. And if you're in the local area, I would definitely say call our friend here,
Thank you.
Jennifer Harmon.
Hammon.
Oh, God, sorry. How did I get that screwed up? Ooh, my
No
apologies.
worries.
And I listened to this book. It's a good audio book too.
Oh, good.
A good listen too, if you like that.
Be a quick
but
listen, too.
It's a quick read as well.
Yeah, and on the book you can jump around. So that neurodivergent thing, if you can't listen, the book is easy to go for.
And where can you find the
You
book
can
if you
go
want to order
to Health Geeks Podcast. I had to think, healthgeekspodcast.com, and go to the bookstore, and it's there. It'll be there.
Along with some other titles that you might
Yes.
like to peruse.
Anything that we've done, anything that we've covered.
And we would appreciate your support because that helps us keep this podcast going. I'm Eleanor at 360health4u.com, making healthy happen. And I like to help people if they're considering nutritional supplementation or avoiding environmental toxins in their daily exposures.
And I am Kristen Norton, one of the registered dietitians at Well Balanced Nutrition. We offer nutrition coaching to help you make healthy food choices and come up with solutions and strategies that will work for you. You can visit us at wellbalancednutrition.com. And where can you find...
Oh, my turn.
Yeah.
Sorry. Jennifer Hammon. My company is Monarch Living, monarchlivingnc.com.
And that's Hammon, everybody, Hammon.
That's right. No D.
And we recommend this book and this topic for discussion in your group. So pick it up and maybe you can have a little coffee chat with some of your friends.
Absolutely. And as Casey Davis says, remember, you are allowed to be human.
Yeah.
The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.